we are live. Welcome to the second episode of Loose Wires, the show where we talk about current events and news items with a anarchist communist perspective. And once again, I'm joined by Ancom Psychom.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me.
Always happy to.
And I guess just to get it out of the way, there's nobody here right now, but if you like this project and want to support it, you can always share, hit the like button and all that stuff. It's always helpful.
And also, Patreon.
And of course, the Patreon. Yes. Patreon.com/skepticalleftist. But, all right. So we've got, again, 5 main stories. We got a few brief ones for our lightning round. And then we've got what's being called signs of life, what I'm calling a signs of life for later in the show. So for our first topic tonight, we've got José Mujica. Mujica died at 89. He was the former president of Uruguay, but before that, he was a guerrilla fighter with the Tupamaros and spent over a decade in prison, much of it in solitary confinement, for resisting the military dictatorship in the 1970s and 80s. When he finally became president in 2010, he made headlines for how different he was from most politicians. He gave around 90% of his salary away and refused to live in the presidential palace. And he also kept driving his beat-up old Volkswagen. And apparently he lived on a flower farm.
That's cool. Yeah, I think I remember hearing about this guy a bit back in the early 2010s, though. Like, he was just kind of one of those people that kind of made it briefly into U.S. headlines, but I hadn't really heard much about him otherwise.
Yeah, apparently he's still been, like, after he was president, he was still involved with the party quite a bit. And like, even, I think it's the party that's in power now is still the same party that he was a member of.
Gotcha.
So everything I read about this guy is good. Like he's exactly what you expect you would hope politicians would actually be.
Yeah, absolutely.
He lived up to his principles. He was humble, ethical, and wasn't afraid to speak out against capitalism, which is something you'll never see in your or my politics.
Yeah, no.
So, but there are, like I said in our notes, there's limits to how far something like that can go. Like he was the president of a small country. He couldn't turn it into an anti-capitalist kind of haven where it was, went to full on communism, because he still had to run his country within the global hegemony.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, but I mean, it looks like he did some good stuff while he was in office.
Yes.
Looks like he decriminalized abortion and legalized cannabis and same-sex marriage.
Yep.
So, for a South American country, the majority of which tend to be pretty heavily Catholic or otherwise religious, they tend to not be so great on things like same-sex marriage and abortion. And honestly, I don't think I've ever heard of a Central or South American country legalizing any form of psychoactive drug, with the exception of coffee, which is kind of a big cash crop for them.
Yeah, for sure.
So, it's, a fairly impressive legacy for, someone who was only in office for 5 years. And yes, he had an incredibly long political career before that, much of it being outside the establishment or even the legal system.
Yeah.
But he definitely seemed to be one of those guys who walked the walk. So.
Yeah, for sure.
There's limits to what you can do inside the system. But
yeah.
For someone who was president of a country, he was, he was pushing those limits about as far as one might be able to legitimately expect without, having to face their own massive internal coup, or worse, a U.S. funded coup, as we have seen so many Latin American countries being subject to after electing leftist leaders.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's actually, there must be no oil or anything that the U.S. really wanted there, eh?
Yeah, I'd have to look up what Uruguay's primary exports are, but my guess is they're small enough. If I showed you a map of South America and highlighted the countries of Uruguay and Paraguay, you would be hard pressed to tell me which is which.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
So
for sure.
it's one of those things that those are the two South American countries that don't really get a lot of play. Well, okay, them and oh shoot, I'm struggling to remember the name of the third country that almost never gets mentioned, because of course it almost never gets mentioned.
Right? Yeah, of course.
Let's see if I can quickly find that, because now it's on my brain. And Suriname, that's what it was.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yes.
I don't think I've even heard of that one.
Yeah, so Suriname is on the northern coast of South America, just north of Brazil, between Guyana and French Guiana, which is a funny one because Guyana is spelled with a Y, whereas French Guiana is spelled with an I. But yeah, they're those. They're like the Baltics of South America. They're just these three little countries right next to Venezuela and Brazil. So
Okay.
the teeny tiny countries between the two major two of the major powers of South America.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty cool. And and my brain map was in fact wrong. I thought Uruguay was the one kind of centrally placed in South America, but no, it's the one that sits kind of on Brazil's tail. So yeah, but like I know, Peru, Bolivia, and Paraguay all have seen various leftist leaders over the last 50 years, and so I thought maybe it was kind of part of that chain. It's cut off from Paraguay, but not by much.
Okay.
And that was random map hyper focus by Encompass Icon.
No, that's awesome.
Thank you for coming to my not TED Talk.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess one of the things that came up is that some of his former adversaries, Julio Maria Sanguinetti, shared condolences, and Spanish Alberto Núñez Feijóo, leader of the Conservative People's Party of Spain, offered condolences, noting that their ideological differences. And I guess he got kind of slammed on social media quite a bit for that.
Yep. I mean, yeah, the right wingers commemorating the passing of, a, by all accounts, incredibly popular leftist president. Not a lot they can say, that isn't going to get them in heaps of trouble. So yeah, just play it safe and be like, our condolences are with his family.
Yeah. Kai Matera says, didn't America have a radical Marxist, anarchist, leftist leader for a while named by the name of Joe Biden?
I fucking wish.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Like, the only way I can imagine Joe Biden legitimately having any sort of Marxist or leftist point is something he said during one of his dementiatic episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, if he said something, it would later be brushed off as a gaffe because he had so many of those and no one would question it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's right, folks. We go after the Democrats and the Republicans around here. Fuck them all.
Yeah, that's right. Not a fan of either.
Not really, no. I'd say the only North American political party that actually, has my support in any significant way is NDP, and they're gone now.
Yeah, they
Not,
don't really count
not
anymore.
yeah, they're not completely gone, but uh, they had to be sacrificed on the altar of liberalism to stop fascism. Which,
Yeah.
on one hand, yes, I'm glad that Canada isn't becoming a fascist hellscape of its own. On the other hand, I'm sad at the loss of, a genuinely progressive political party in Canada, because God knows we don't have one here in the U.S. And
Yeah.
don't you
And
dare fucking tell me the Greens.
well, and actually, I have an interview coming up in a couple weeks where we kind of tear down the NDP as well, because they really took that rightward turn and started really being like much more of a center party.
Ah, Jagmeet, why you do this to me?
Yeah, that's right. Kai Matera said America needs a Joe Bakunin and a Kamala Testa Harris.
Kamala Testa Harris. I love that. That is amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, for
uh,
sure.
so, yeah.
All right. I guess moving on.
Yep.
Pro-democracy protests erupt in Mali after junta bans all political parties. So in early May, the Malian military government escalated its authoritarian crackdown by formally dissolving all political parties, effectively erasing the last remnants of organized opposition. The junta, in power since a 2020 coup led by Colonel Assemi Goita, had already suspended elections and all political activity earlier this year. The party ban triggered mass protests across the country, with demonstrations demanding a return to civilian rule and the restoration of democratic governance. Civil society groups, students, and ordinary citizens have taken to the streets in defiance of the regime, marking the largest wave of public resistance since the coup. The government has responded with repression, including arrests of opposition leaders and reported disappearances. Amnesty International has condemned the crackdown and warned of deepening authoritarianism. Despite risks, protesters continue to organize, signaling a growing movement against the military rule. So yeah, this reading about this kind of it really messed with me a little bit. Like I'm sitting in my office typing on my computer, and while I'm reading about this, there are people actually doing this. Like this is what being on an anarchist is, right? Like they're doing the thing that I should be doing, and
Yep.
yeah, it kind of messed with me a bit.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that, like, it's kind of interesting when you hear about it, and like you realize that it's been going on for years and you haven't heard much of anything about it, and suddenly it's exploding into giant protests. It kind of reminds me of Egypt in 2011, because
Right.
you didn't realize anything was going on in Egypt until the Arab Spring happened, and then holy shit, everything's going to hell in the Middle East, and well, more so than usual anyway. And
Yeah.
you don't, and you understand nothing about what's happening. But yeah, that is a thing that is happening. So, for those of you who don't know where Mali is, because I had to look it up,
Right.
It's in Western Africa. The entire northern half of the country is swallowed by the Sahara, and it also happens to be the place from which we get the name Timbuktu, although it's actually closer to Timbuktu. But yeah, it's whenever people refer to Timbuktu, that's in Mali. So
Yeah. It's quite large.
yes, it's a pretty decently big country.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say besides that, because it's Mali. There's, besides the military junta and the fact that all political opposition has been removed, and now we're seeing giant protests as a result, because of fucking course we are.
Yeah.
This is why authoritarianism never works. People realize what you're doing and then are mad about it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least, oh, sorry. I was going to say, at least Russia was smart in that they left behind a semblance of an opposition party. not an effective opposition party, but, controlled opposition. If you're gonna, if you're gonna do this kind of shit, controlled opposition. Read
Yeah.
rules for rulers, people. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny and sad that we're seeing the same thing happen over and over again. You'd think these people would learn. And yes, I am trying to teach people how to be better dictators.
Stop banning all political parties. At least put on the show that you.
Yeah, come on. Dictatorship is 90% theater, 10% beheading your opposition.
Yeah, that's right. So if you start swinging too far one way, then you're in trouble.
But hey, maybe this is exactly the thing Mali needs for a communist uprising.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe we'll get the next Thomas Sankara out of it, especially given, formerly Burkina Faso, now Upper Volta,
right.
Is literally the country
next door,
on the southern border. Yeah, next door. Yeah. So who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see something good come out of this. Probably lots of death too, which is, unfortunate.
Yeah, which is
and I realize I'm being highly flippant, but you gotta you gotta do something to cope with the likely tens of thousands of deaths that are coming down the pike. And sadly, humor is just the coping mechanism that I have.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, how are you supposed to cope with it really, except to be dark humor, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's either that or slip into utter despair at the state of the world. And doomerism is counter-revolutionary. Dark humor maybe is at least, potentially a way to cope and continue with some form of revolutionary action. But
yeah, for sure. I guess it's worth mentioning, Mali was a French colony for a long time. I'm not sure I have in the notes exactly when they stopped being a technical colony, but France maintained major military presence from 2013 to 2022. And they were supposedly combating Islamist insurgents, and they were fighting terrorism, quote unquote. So that's part of what's going on here. They withdrew, and I guess the way that they withdrew was not terribly helpful. And so the existing government went to Russia for help, and the Wagner Group has been involved in some of this stuff too. So not great.
I mean, just trading one colonial overlord for another, but sure.
Yeah, that's right. Left Lori said, I heard that because of the lapse in funding to USAID, in some countries in Africa, thousands of babies will now be born with HIV because their mothers didn't receive the meds to keep them HIV free.
Yeah, I mean, we stopped giving out meds. We stopped giving out free condoms. So, disease prevention efforts that, USAID was a colonialist project, to be sure, or not, imperialist more so than colonialist, but still, it definitely did some good things, and we're going to end up seeing an overall worse world for its, defunding. So, this is likely to be something that we're just seeing the earliest consequences of now, because it only happened a couple of months ago. Yes, it was only a couple of months ago. I know it feels longer.
Does it ever feel longer? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that's about it for that story. It seems like I don't know, something to keep an eye on, I guess. There's a lot of unrest in a lot of countries in Africa right now, and we should be paying attention.
Yep.
Okay. Now I'm going to mispronounce this. I'm almost certain about it. Aotearoa, Workers' Solidarity Movement joins nationwide protests against pay equity rollback. Next, we're going to be talking about New Zealand, or as the Maori people refer to it, Aotearoa.
Aotearoa. Close
Sure.
enough.
I am like I put in the notes. I'm a shitty Anglophobe or Anglophone, so I always anglicize everything and make it
Look,
awful.
just just when you want to say it, point my direction. I'll say it for you. It's fine.
Sounds good. Yeah.
I'm also a shitty Anglophone, but I don't know. I have a gift for foreign accents and pronunciations. I don't know our language, mind you. I can sound like I do.
So. Right. Yeah. So I guess the government is moving to roll back key provisions in the pay equity legislation that has sparked mass protests. Nurses, educators, and public sector workers took to the streets, and among them were anarchists from the I'm going to point it. Worker Solidarity Movement, or the AWSM, who stood alongside care workers and played a role in organizing on the ground. The rollback weakens processes that let women-dominated industries like nursing and early childhood education fight for pay based on the real value of their work, not just what the market says it's worth. The AWSM issued a public statement condemning the changes and called the rollback an attack on women and working-class people. And their presence at the protest included banners, direct action, support, and coordination with union blocs.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty clear that this is just straight up an attack on workers generally and, women, Maori, and Pacifica people, more generally, because, of course it is, there had to be some amount of lashback after such a highly progressive government as Aotearoa has seen over the last several years. So this is not unexpected, but still quite unfortunate that they are deciding to go this way. And I'm very happy to see that there are significant there's significant resistance to this this attempt to roll back worker protections.
Yeah, I actually saw this week too that so there was a viral video that went around with a Maori person in the New Zealand legislature or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a protest inside their legislature.
Yeah.
And so the people who did that have now been kicked out of the legislature. Like there was consequences came down this week for those people. Here we have us Maori anarchists have a particular strand of anarchism called
Papa tu anu kutanga.
Okay.
How I'm going to attempt to pronounce that.
A materialist philosophy that sees hierarchy, especially over Earth Mother, as unnatural and metaphysical. I like that. Yeah, I like that.
I like that a lot. That's great.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of stuff going on there. I think obviously we know feminist theory has said for a long time that care work gets undervalued.
Yep.
So this is just another piece of that, and it's these neoliberal like governments always have to placate capital in one way or another, and they do it through like the guise of austerity or the guise of like fiscal responsibility or quote unquote efficiency.
Yes, the lovely and uber efficient invisible hand of the market.
Yeah,
their religious devotion to this concept is quite annoying at times.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty annoying. Yeah, at the best of times.
How dare women ask to be paid for their emotional labor?
Yeah, exactly. And how dare care work be considered valuable work?
Yeah. They're not doing anything valuable for the economy. What do we need to do? Live? Nah.
Yeah. It's not as though like workers have kids who need to be cared for while they're at work.
What? No. Kids are fully self-sufficient. It's fine. We don't need anyone taking care of them. And if you're sick, just, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You don't need nurses.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I don't know if there's much else for me to say on it. Like, it's,
I mean, yeah, there's not a whole hell of a lot to say. I would love to see how they're trying to justify this because it's just ridiculous.
okay, yeah, yeah. I Kaima Terra has another comment. If you ever learn more, want to learn more this time, there's a TED Talk by Tame Iti called
Yep,
Mana, the Power of Knowing Who You Are, and an article by Emily Riquette, Parasites, Posthumanism, and
Paputuanuku.
okay. Yeah. No, I will definitely check those out.
I love anytime someone uses the word parasite in relation to any of this shit because it is quite possibly one of the most accurate words that can be used to describe the people that love to accumulate and give nothing back because that's exactly
Yeah.
what they are.
Yep, absolutely. I parasites, leeches, good words.
Yep.
Uh
There's actually a great song by Daniel Kahn and the Painted Bird called, I think it's just called Parasites. I can't quite remember. But yeah, it's going over the life cycle of three different like parasitic insects. Just going over like the insane ways in which they reproduce, and like it's very clear the comparison he's not making in the song, and I love it.
yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. All
Um
right.
so we're a couple weeks late on it, but now there was a lot of stuff that went on May Day. So May Day 2025 saw anarchist and anti-authoritarian groups mobilize across the globe, from Leipzig to Mexico City, from Dhaka to Denton, Texas, reclaiming the streets with marches, strikes, and direct action. In Germany, over 2,500 people turned out in Leipzig for an anarcho-syndicalist rally organized by the Free Workers Union and local anti-fascist groups, with similar events in Dresden, Lubeck, and Magdeburg. In Sri Lanka, the feminist Dabindu Collective Union led a demonstration in Kilinochchi focused on reproductive rights and labor issues, while garment workers in Dhaka gathered under the banner of the GWTUC to mark the day despite heavy repression. Mexico City saw autonomous groups rally with anti-capitalist messages, and in the U.S., more than 1,000 actions were reportedly planned, many backed by the 501 movement. In Philadelphia, Unite Here Locals 274 helped organize local worker demonstrations, and in Denton, Texas, anarchist formations hosted a radical May Day gathering highlighting local struggles against capitalism and state power. And of course, throughout all of these is the common threads of solidarity, mutual aid, and the refusal to let May Day be co-opted by reformist unions or political parties.
Yeah. And for those who don't know the history, which I'm guessing is not many people in the stream, but if you're watching this later, so May 1st is International Workers' Day. It is what a lot of leftists consider to be the true Labor Day, not that
Yeah,
bullshit in September. And is the day on which many a significant labor and or workers' rights action has taken place throughout global history. So it is a very important day historically for anyone who's concerned about workers' rights or any of the connected struggles for liberation. So to see so many different actions around the world is pretty heartening to see that like people are actually standing up, and so it's great to see this, and hopefully we'll see more of it as the years go on.
yeah, for sure. And I guess one of the main things about May Day is the Haymarket affair,
Mhm.
where many anarchists and were killed and injured in protests. And this week, well, from May 15th to June 26th, there was the Winnipeg General Strike actually also happened,
Hmm.
which is a nice little piece. It was in 1919. There was the 30,000 strikers brought economic activity to a standstill in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So,
yes. Something brought up in the chat. So May 1st is also in the United States recognized as Law Day and Loyalty Day. Loyalty Day is interesting, specifically because it was proclaimed by Eisenhower in 1955 specifically to counter International Workers' Day.
Of course.
Because International Workers' Day in the 50s would have been heavily associated with the USSR and China. So, we can't have any of those dirty commies celebrating and or fighting for workers' rights in the U.S. How fucking dare they be so unpatriotic and un-American?
Yeah, no kidding.
And I'll also point out 55 was right about the time that McCarthyism started, really getting going. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there was a lot of anti-communist, anti-worker propaganda bullshit that is still in effect to this day. Law Day is meant to, quote, reflect the role of law in the foundation of the country and to recognize its importance for society.
Wow.
I'm going for my penguin laugh right now.
Yeah, that's wild.
Because holy shit. Ugh.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing the lengths to which the American government will go to shut down any solidarity between workers.
Yep.
Kai Matera said, have you heard of the 2007 two-hole raids in New Zealand? They were nationwide police raids against anarchists and Maori activists advocating for self-determination. There's a documentary called Operation 8, Deep in the Forest.
I had not heard
Very
about that.
Cool.
Good
I
to
had
know.
Not. Yeah.
We'll have to check that out. Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, that's there. I was kind of surprised at how much stuff has been going on and that I hadn't heard about, obviously, until I went and started researching it, or else we would have had it last time we were on.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. So it's cool. And one of our links is called Mayday Strong and globalmayday.net. So this might be something that a person could keep up with easy enough if you actually knew about these ahead of time.
Yes, indeed.
So, as for our last main story of the evening, it's Utrecht University students occupy campus in pro-Palestinian protest. On May 7th, students and staff at Utrecht University in the Netherlands initiated an ongoing occupation of the university's academic library courtyard. And this action is part of a broader movement across Dutch universities where students are demanding that their institutions sever academic and financial ties with Israeli organizations in response to the ongoing conflict in Gaza. This encampment, named in honor of Palestinian journalist Hasan Piker, who was killed in March, features daily teach-ins, workshops, public lectures, and community discussions. The university has acknowledged the protest and is allowing it to continue so far. Emphasizing
what? A university actually allowing a freedom of speech issue to continue? Shocking.
Yes, unusual, particularly considering last year they did call the cops on the same groups. So,
yeah, that sounds about right. But I'm guessing in the Netherlands they probably got a little bit more pushback on that last year, and so this year they're hopefully a little bit more of maybe not do anything about that and save the university image because holy shit.
Yeah, that's right. And in fact, on the 16th, the university announced its intention to end a project involving the Israeli Ministry of Health, and they would suspend new collaborations with Israeli organizations, citing Israeli concerns over Israeli government's actions in Gaza and the West Bank. Obviously, that's not the sort of thing that they do unless there's pressure from students like this. They don't just make ethical decisions because they're ethical.
No, not generally. I mean, the so-called bastions of higher learning are, you know, supposed to be a little bit more, you know, open to differing ideas and have particular ethical standards. But as we've seen in the U.S., those crumble pretty fucking fast. You know, whenever just about anything is threatened. So yeah, I'm impressed that they are at least allowing them to continue. Obviously, it would be better if they actually, I don't know, met the demands of the people in question, because, you know, maybe that would be a good idea, given, you know, the ongoing fucking genocide. And, oh, that's right, the fact that Donald Trump has now specifically said he wants to displace 1 million Gazans to what was it, Libya is what I heard. You know, because that's not directly in the definition of genocide.
Yeah, geez, wow.
So, you know, we're making it go from plausible genocide to we're going to forcibly relocate 1 million people in actual fucking genocide.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't realize that he had said that. That's unreal.
Yeah, I'd have to pull up the link. I heard about it kind of through some friends a few days ago. So I don't know the exact statement, but I know the basic details of it. So yeah, this is
full disclosure. I specifically went through articles avoiding anything to do with Mark Carney or Donald Trump.
So, yeah, no, that is totally fair. Absolutely fair. No need to, you know, to make the already bleak situation look worse by, you know, saying what's actually happening in the world.
We're already looking at a pretty awful collapse of a lot of things. So, but something I guess I kind of noticed throughout the various stories is I didn't intentionally go out looking for stories about people protesting and standing up for and participating in actions, but pretty much all the stories are that, except for the José Mujica story. So yeah. I'm
you know, it's good to see people around the world coming together and standing up for shit that matters, because, you know, at least we know that the entire planet hasn't succumbed to doomerism just yet. Right. So, you know, glad to see it, and hopefully we'll actually see some good things come of it.
Yeah. Kai Matara said, it's interesting how people will try to say, if you go to Palestine, Palestinians will treat you awful. It was the IDF kidnapped our Greens politician Marama Davidson in 2016 and made a Maori hide her moko.
Yeah, that does not surprise me in the slightest. And he also clarifies in a later post that a moko is a Maori cultural tattoo.
Right, yeah. Palestinians didn't treat Maori awful when going to Palestine. The IDF did, which is about on brand for the IDF.
Yep.
Some random geek said, I think Eric and Donald Trump commented on Gaza. It is a beautiful beachside property. Yeah.
Oh, they did. That happened a while ago. This thing about displacing Gazans is a lot more recent, as I understand. So, you know, yeah, he like one of the earliest things he said into his presidency is that he wanted to turn Palestine into a beautiful beachside resort property. The entirety of the Gaza Strip, you know, 20 miles, I think it is, no, it's not, it's more than 20 miles. I don't remember exactly how far it is, but, you know, it's a very large strip of land.
Yeah, that's right. It's pretty wild how, like, blatant the pro-capital perspective is. Like, it's like, humans don't matter. We can make money off of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wasn't actually that far off. The length of the Gaza Strip is about 25 miles.
Oh, well, there you go. Good guess.
Yeah. Hey, you know, apparently I remembered well. So, anyways.
Yeah. So, Yeah, Velkin 999 said the people who say you'll be treated in Gaza are just victim blaming. It's very privileged and doesn't justify genocide.
I
Obviously,
mean,
yeah,
nothing
yeah,
justifies genocide.
yeah,
Let's be honest here. But yeah, it's literally just victim blaming and saying, they deserve it and they're getting what's coming to them. And I'm like,
yeah. That's right.
no, they're not. Maybe treat them like actual humans,
Yep, exactly.
perhaps.
Well,
But no,
that's
that's too much to ask
yeah,
because they're
that's too
brown
much,
and they don't speak the same language or hold the
right?
same religion.
Even though some of them do.
Well, yeah, that's right. The admitted minority, but still, existing and not insignificant population of Christian Palestinians. How about that?
Yep, yep. No, for sure. I guess that's it for the 5 main stories. So
Yep.
on to our quick articles. The first one of the 3 that I've got here is from the Anarchist Federation, and it digs into some of the parts of Emma Goldman's legacy. Alongside her radical work, she supported eugenics and leaned heavily into like hyper individualism, not just like what you or I might consider individualism.
Yeah, I read through this, and it was interesting. I hadn't heard any of this prior, and I'm someone who's tried to follow Emma Goldman's writings a bit, but clearly there were some things I'd missed, especially
Yeah,
when I read through Anarchism and Other Essays, mainly because apparently there was a bit in there where she was supporting some of Nietzsche's ideas,
right.
which I did not notice. And like to be a little bit devil's advocate here, the reason that she supported things like eugenics and the concept of the Ubermensch and this ultra individualism was that she was attempting to reform humanity into a race that did not have or basically that did not have weak and what's the word I'm looking for? Subservient individuals.
Right.
Basically, she was going the eugenics route to try and get rid of poverty and slavery, but unfortunately, that is also a massive form of victim blaming. And so, while
Yes.
we can
Yeah.
understand the rationale behind why she believed what she did, and the fact that she may have believed her positions to be ultimately for the good of the species long term, we now understand that no, that's not actually a good way to go about this. The problem isn't the people who are becoming the slaves and the people stuck in poverty. It is the people enslaving them and the people placing them in poverty by hoarding resources and oppressing and exploiting them. So it's not the fact that the people who are exploited need to be less exploitable. It is the people who are doing the exploiting need to do it less. And the fact that anyone can stand up and fight for their own freedom, regardless of ability, regardless of position, as long as they have, the solidarity of the comrades around them to fight with them, because ultimately those who are exploitable will always outnumber those who try to do the exploiting, and
Yes.
ultimately it is about us coming together as as a community to defend one another that will be the way in which we break free from those particular chains. And this is where I will tend to disagree heavily with individualists. And as an anarchist, yeah, I support people's ultimate ability to have liberty, to have freedom, to be able to make choices for themselves, but understand that it is in our collective solidarity with one another that we achieve the power to keep ourselves free.
Yep. Absolutely. Uh, Kaima Tara said, my theory for why even the left were proponents of eugenics, the hyper focus on the worker, both positive, socialist, and negative, capitalist, invisibilized disabled people unable to work or saw us as burdens we are neither valuable to the capitalist or the revolution in their eyes back then.
Yeah, and like the article here specifically mentions that she wanted to reduce the number of the lumpen proletariat, which is, you know, something that Marx lamented on as well. And unfortunately, these have been the punching bag of everyone, capitalist and socialist alike, because they're not seen as valuable in any way to society, which, as Kaimatara says, is just, you know, invisibilizing disability. And in many cases, not even just disability, though, yes, that's a huge part of it. You know, as Marx even lumped in sex workers into the lumpen proletariat. So, you know, it is people who have been cast down by the rest of society such that they weren't even worthy by the capitalist to be exploited in the first place, and were just cast off as the dredges. You know, and so, you know, we still have this group of people today. It's the people who are unhoused, the people who are disabled and can't hold down a job, and you know, people who are generally seen as leeches upon society, not realizing that in fact the leeches are the people on the other end of the wealth spectrum.
Yeah, and we still get the odd like leftist people saying things like in a way that invisibilizes disabled folks and the lumpen proletariat in a lot of ways. Like there's a lot of swerve type talk coming out of some communist groups and even podcasts and stuff. And like there's a lot of that, you know, kind of, it's frustrating. But
yeah, unfortunately, you get, you know, the really hardcore MLs and the, you know, the MAGA communist types who all tend to fall into this trap because they're too focused on seeing you know, finding the value, you know, economic value of a person rather than seeing the intrinsic value of personhood itself as the reason that people should be, you know, should be stood up for and fought for, because ultimately any form of discrimination in terms of fighting for their liberation is just, you know, recapitulating the exact same oppressions that we are attempting to fight against.
Yep.
And yes, I realize I used a lot of big words there. I apologize.
Our next story, I guess, to be fair, the reason I'm an anarchist is because of Emma Goldman. So this struck me as disappointing in some ways, but also like I don't think it's fair to erase all positive aspects of her work by, you know, focusing a whole bunch on this. We can be critical, but also fair, I guess.
I'm just going to repeat a mantra that I've been living by, largely thanks to my spouse for the last several years. Don't have heroes, people.
Don't have heroes.
Respect people for who they are and what they did, sure. Respect actions and, you know, understand that no matter who it is, every single person you have ever thought of lionizing or admiring in any way, they're all human. They all have flaws. They all have things that we wish were different about them. Corey and I standing up here on this virtual stage, we both have issues about us. And, you know, I would never want anyone to think of me as a hero of any sort because, quite frankly, I'm going to let you the fuck down. So, you know, anyone you would determine to be a hero, you learn enough about them, they will let you down. Respect what they did, respect the good actions, understand the bad, and, you know, carry forward with that understanding, because it is ultimately the dialectic of the person that will tell you the most of what you need to know and give you the lessons to walk away with to hopefully build the future better than the past that we have.
Yeah, for sure. Some random geek says, this is why you're an anarchist, Corey, instead of a Goldmanist. You must take the good ideas from many people. Yeah, absolutely. Velka999 had an off-topic comment saying there is a very good / fun Luigi Mangione video Philosophy put out yesterday.
Oh. I don't think I've heard of Philosophy before. I'll have to take a look.
Yeah, definitely have to take a look at that.
Awesome.
So our next lightning round story is about Constellation 2025 in Montreal. It's a 4-day anarchist gathering with workshops, discussions, and skill sharing across the city. It's not in one venue; it's in various venues across the city, and it brought together people from anti-capitalist and anti-authoritarian politics with a mix of theory and hands-on organizing. And it ended, I think, today. It was on for 4 days and ended either yesterday or today. And yeah, I thought it was really cool, something that I really enjoyed reading about, and I felt so jealous. I really want I really want an anarchist fair here.
Yep.
So
yeah, we have in Boston, we have an anarchist book fair that happens every year. I don't know when it's happening this year, or maybe it already has. Let's see, it took place last year in October.
okay.
I'm not seeing the 2025 date. Nothing announced yet. Oh no, this is in the UK, not okay. Yeah, so I don't know when it's going to happen this year, but I will be sure to to mention it when it happens this year, and hopefully give a little spiel on it, because I plan to attend myself whenever it does end up happening. So yeah, but these sorts of anarchist fairs are great, and
sure.
if you know anarchists in your area, it's always you starting your own.
Yeah, for sure. Kai Matara said, disabled solidarity is class solidarity with yourself in the future. Most people are one serious injury or illness away from becoming disabled. Even getting old could make you lumpen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a very good point.
Indeed.
And
Velkin, don't put his message up, but Velkin, before I knew what that was, I legitimately went to the anarchist book fair and asked about it, because I had no idea what it was. I just heard the name somewhere. I thought it was actually the thing it sounds like it is, not the thing it actually is.
Right, yeah, for sure. Which we can't say. Because
just, if we want to keep any hopes of monetization on this video, probably better not to mention it by name.
Yeah, better not to say it. So our last lightning round story is Hasan Piker was detained by Homeland Security after coming back from France, and was questioned for about 2 hours, and it was an interesting little story, I guess, and yeah.
I mean, this is what happens when a hugely popular leftist brown, influencer comes back from overseas. I think he was coming back from France, but, regardless where he's coming from, they almost certainly knew who he was, knew what he said, and were trying to trap him into, some reason to take him into custody. And he saw it coming and managed to avoid it. That's about all I'm going to say about it, because, that's all I'm going to say about it. For reasons.
Fair enough. Yep. Fair enough. All right. Last up here is our signs of life. It's the Freedom to Be quilt unveiled at World Pride 2025. So on May 17th, during World Pride in Washington, D.C., the American Civil Liberties Union unveiled a monumental 9,000 square foot quilt titled Freedom to Be. This collaborative project comprises 258 panels, each contributed by trans individuals from across the United States, expressing personal visions of freedom, identity, and resilience.
Wow. 9,000 square foot quilt with 258 panels. Those must have been huge panels.
Big panels, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah, for sure.
Like
they're not just like your little 6x6. Eh?
Yeah, my entire house is around 700 square feet. So, each of those panels was probably close. Well, okay. I'm doing the quick math in my head. No, not quite, but they would have been the size of a room. So,
right,
yeah,
a small room. Yeah. for sure. They're nice and big.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I guess it's modeled after the AIDS quilt that was done in the past, or AIDS memorial quilt. So yeah, I thought that was a really cool thing that was, kind of showed solidarity for trans people who are facing a lot of trouble in the United States.
Yeah. Also, some random geek said in chat, remember, don't talk to cops, ask for a lawyer. Good advice. Also, every day is Shut the Fuck Up Friday. And lastly, unfortunately, when you're at a border, like a port of entry, you can be questioned without having without being given the right to a lawyer, because the law in those sort of checkpoint and port of entry spaces is a little murky. So there is a point at which you can demand a lawyer, and he was never at that point. So yeah, just something to remember. There's a whole video by Legia Miller. She's a leftist lawyer. Well, I say leftist. I don't know if she's ever explicitly said her position on a lot of things, but you can infer pretty easily. Lefty lawyer, I'll go with that. Who gave a lot of good information about what your rights are at what stage of process when you're traveling into the United States.
Yeah, I'm just not going to travel to the United States.
Yeah, it's probably, especially as a non-citizen, I don't plan to leave the United States anytime soon. Even though I'm not well known, I am, a cishet white man. And the fact that I'm an anarcho-communist is, not particularly significant in my case, because other than the few things I put on the internet, I'm not well known.
Right.
So yeah, even then, I have no plans to do that. Also, whenever you're traveling internationally, just regardless where you're going from or to, get a burner phone. That is the best thing I can recommend for anyone traveling internationally or going to protest for that matter. Get a burner phone.
For sure. Kai Matara said, off topic, when it comes to voting, it irritates me when liberals belittle and mock non-voters. Like, what have you done to materially better their lives? You can't expect people to participate in democracy when you yourself don't even participate in solidarity.
It's true. It is true. Yeah, don't knock people just because they didn't vote, because chances are you have only done the bare minimum by voting.
That's right.
What have you done other than check a few boxes?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess final thoughts or takeaways.
I don't really have any particular takeaways. I'm not usually one to save my thoughts for the end of the show, as I'm sure you've noticed. I kind of spout all of my thought stream of consciousness as they arise, because that's how I work best. And and it has only bitten me in the ass a few times in my life, and by a few I mean mostly.
Well, it's perfect for this model of show.
Yeah, so. This is honestly the kind of model that I do best on. Just ask me about things, and I will spew my opinions at you, whether you like it or not. Well, okay, maybe not whether you like it or not, because if I'm on the show, clearly you wanted my opinions in the first place. But still, right. I'm going to spew them stream of consciousness style, because my brain is a train that derails constantly.
Yeah, that's all right, though. So I'm going to have a whole bunch of links where people can support these various organizations and stuff in Mali and New Zealand and the Netherlands, and supporting trans people. Like, these links will all be in the show notes for anyone who wants to go and help those.
Awesome.
Other than that, where can people find you?
Well, other than here, I just did a longish video covering with a friend over on a channel called FOFA News. That's FOFA, or Five Old Fogies Are Angry.
Nice.
Because it's me and four other friends, and I'm the youngest one of them at almost 39. So, the old moniker is probably accurate. But yeah, a group of friends who just go over political news. We were covering an executive order from April that opened up undersea mining and the absolutely devastating economic and ecological consequences this will likely have on the U.S. as well as the rest of the world. And yeah, it was a whole thing. It was a fun time, fairly
Cool.
dark, but if you want to see me elsewhere, that's about the only other place I am these days.
Right on. And obviously, I'm on all the social media as Skeptical Leftist or Skeptical Lefty, or you can just go to my Linktree, which is Linktree/Skeptical Leftist.
Yeah, and Geek, my brain does occasionally have tracks, but oftentimes they look more like the golden spiral than anything, relatively on track or linear. So they have lots of branches. Actually, no, it looks more like one of those lightning patterns that you see in trees. Just goes all over the place.
Right on. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you so much to the people in chat. And thank you, Ancom.
Thank you very much. Everyone, have a good one.